Hi YouTube. On the topic of lies told about Jews, Judaism, and the Talmud, I want to look at a common assertion about keeping things that a Jew finds if those things belong to a Gentile. The implication and the assertion is that he may just take it. They don't really talk about it in its proper context in terms of finding things which are lost. With reference to my previous video, which was called Lying About the Jews in the Talmud, Owen Benjamin and Bava Kama 113a, someone called Justin William Salter made some very interesting comments. Islam co-created by Jews, fact. Islam calls for the death of all Jews, fact. If I had to debate this guy, how much does he know about Islam? Now, of course, there are a bunch of other idiots claiming that Islam was created by the Catholic Church. Again, these are people that know absolutely nothing about Sharia and the fact that Islam is entirely 100% antithetical to Christianity, the Church, and also Jesus, because it claims that Jesus is a Muslim who's going to come back, fight the Jews, destroy the Church, convert everyone to Islam. And he will, of course, fight at the right hand of Muhammad. This person can't even spell, not very educated. Dumb comments, but very common comments. Also, the Talmud, the 800-year-old secret book of the... It's not a secret book. You can read it online if you want. You can buy a copy. It is not secret. If there is a secret Talmud and that claim has been made, please send me a copy. I'm still waiting. It's been 1 year. No one has sent me that secret Talmud. Of course, this person, Justin William Salter, does not discuss the Islamic Talmud, which is the Sharia. And Muhammad, the founder of Islam, married a 6-year-old, shagged her when she was 9, only waited for 3 years because she fell very ill. Otherwise, he would have had sex with her at the age of 6. And because he did this, everything that Muhammad does is right, it is legal, and thus it is lawful in Islam for men to have sex with children. Pedophilia is legalized in the Sharia. The section on pedophilia within, I did an entire series on this on the UnSpun channel with Jan Irvin. There is no child sex allowed in Judaism. Pedophilia is illegal. I did an entire episode on this on the UnSpun channel on sex and marriage in the Talmud. Have a look at that. I go through it in great depth. And that discussion actually occurs in a chapter on the crime of rape and the punishment of rape. And it discusses numerous examples of rape. And somehow when it discusses the example of child rape, somehow that becomes permission. I think you are either an idiot or you have been gullible and you have believed a lot of lies you've been told by lying liars. I will discuss that at some point in the near future. Now, let's talk about this lost property. So there's a discussion, and I looked around online, found numerous of these references. A common one is Choshenham 2661. Why is it that very often when people are discussing the Talmud, they quote books that are most explicitly not the Talmud? Because Choshenham doesn't exist. It's called the Choshen Mishpat. And 2, it is absolutely not the Talmud. It's very interesting that if people want to bash the Bible, if they start referencing some random book they found in a bookshop written by some random scholar with dubious authority. If you're going to discuss the Talmud, quote from the Talmud. I think that would make reasonable sense, but these people are not looking to be honest, they're looking to be dishonest, and I mean, it's an interesting blend of toxic stupidity blended with dishonesty. A Jew may keep anything he finds which belongs to the Akum, the Gentile. For he who returns lost property to Gentiles sins against the law by increasing the power of the transgressors of the law. It is praiseworthy, however, to return lost property if it is done to honor the name of God. Namely, if by so doing Christians will praise the Jews and look upon them as honorable people. The Shulchan Aruch, Choshen Mishpat 2661, describes this law as follows. The lost property of an idolater is permitted to be kept, since the Torah specifies the lost property of your brother in Deuteronomy 22:3. One who returns it violates a prohibition because he strengthens the position of sinners. If one returns it in order to make a Kiddush Hashem, a sanctification of God's name so that they will glorify Israel and know that they are people of faith, then it is praiseworthy to do so. In a place where keeping the lost property would be Chelul Hashem, a desecration of God's name, it is forbidden to keep lost property, and he is obligated to return it. And in every situation, one is required to bring it in, i.e. safeguard their property, as one does the property of Jews, in order to promote peaceful relations. Already we're saying that there's a little bit of a misquote here, and there's no reference of Christians, it is sinners, and so on. from now on, when I discuss Christianity, because these are all good Christians that are making these claims, quote-unquote Christians, would anyone mind if I routinely quote from the Westboro Baptist Church to reference Christian ideas? Yeah, you shouldn't have a problem with that, because, hey, if you guys can quote the Jewish version of the Westboro Baptist Church every time you want to talk about Judaism, then by all means, you should be quite happy that I'm quoting the Westboro Baptist Church, who are authentic Christians, and you should have no problem with me talking about them as the standard of what Christianity is. And in fact, if we talk about Islam, let's talk about ISIS, because those are authentic Muslims. So already we have a little bit of a different meaning presented here. Now let's look at the origin of this law. It's actually in the book of Deuteronomy 22:1 to 22 verse 3. Thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or his sheep go astray, and hide thyself from them. Thou shalt in any case bring them again unto thy brother. And if thy brother be not near thee, or if thou know him not, then thou shalt bring it into thine own house, and it shall be with thee until thy brother seek after it, and thou shalt restore it to him again. And so shalt thou do with his raiment, and with all lost things of thy brother's, which he hath lost, and thou hast found, shalt thou do likewise. So it seems that this is actually referenced in the Bible. Now, these Christians may want to actually read the Bible and realize, again, that these things here, like the Shulchan Aruch and other books of law, are discussions and exegesis of what is found within the Bible, within the Torah. Unless you want to claim that this is not in the Bible and that Christians don't read the Bible, and that, make up your own stories. Now, if we look at the laws of Moses, which are the 613 laws of Moses found throughout the Torah, there's a section which is commonly termed lost and found, and it discusses the obligation to return a lost object. You shall surely return them. That's Deuteronomy 22 verse 1. In Judaism, this is called the Hashavas Aveda, and it is the law to return a lost object. The reason for this is simple enough. It's common for people to lose things. It is therefore a benefit to encourage people to get as many lost objects back into their rightful owner's hands as possible. Some lost objects are easier to return than others. If you find a wallet, a camera, a cell phone, it's likely you'll be able to identify the owner. And this is much easier than if you find a $50 bill, because there's no identifying mark on who the owner is. The Torah only requires us to return things that have identifying characteristics. Loose money, as opposed to money that's in a wallet or a purse, has no identifying traits, and the original owner need not be sought. This is even covered within the Talmud. It's discussed within the Talmud itself as is. Once we get to that point, you'll actually see that it says that the finder can keep those items, whether it be from a Jew or from a Gentile, whether it be in a place of Jewish congregation or whether it is a place where Gentiles congregate. For the simple reason that it is very unlikely that you'll find the owner, and the owner probably would not expect to find those things in a place of that nature. Again, lots of interesting implications there which are false. And of course, people do not take the time to read through the actual Jewish law. If you go look at modern Israeli law, I doubt you'll see theft as legal. Other factors coming into play in the laws of lost objects include whether the item was found on private or public property, whether it was scattered or neatly stacked, and whether the finder incurs an expense by guarding the property until the owner can be identified, such as feeding a lost dog. It is discussed in the Talmud in Tractate Baba Metzia, starting on page 21a, and codified in the Mishnah Torah in the 11th chapter of Hilchos Gezela, however you pronounce that. This mitzvah is number 204 of the 248 positive laws in Rambam's Sefer HaMitzvos, and 69 of the 77 positive mitzvahs that can be fulfilled today, as listed in the Sefer HaMitzvos HaKatzar of the Shofetz Chaim, whatever that means. We do have actual references to facts that things should be kept and then returned if the owner can be found. Now, let's look at the laws of Moses. Not to covet and scheme to acquire another's possessions. You might remember these are in the 10 Commandments. All of the discussion that we see in the Jewish law is an exegesis of and a discussion of the 10 Commandments and the commandments of Moses and the things that are stated within the Old Testament. As I said in my previous video, it's a back and forth. Okay, so it says thou shalt not steal, but what if this is the circumstance? How does that change things? And it's a back and forth, lengthy debate. So it's interesting they can take one sentence out of what might be literally 40 or 50 pages of actual back and forth debate and discussion of the law. And these people are trying to extract every last detail they can from the law and look at the application of the law. And yeah, They simply want to misrepresent what is actually going on within the Talmud. I'm surprised they don't reference the positive things, and they want to claim that it is negative. Of course, they also don't look through Islam and don't quote Islam, don't quote the Sharia, because the Sharia actually makes legal all of these things that they accuse the Talmud and Jews falsely of. Not to desire another's possessions. Now let's look at Exodus 20:15. Thou shalt not steal. This made its way into the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not bear false witness. That is lying. Let's have a look here. Thou shalt not steal within the Hebrew Bible. Do not desire another's possessions. Again, do not desire another's possessions. Return the robbed object or its value. Leviticus 5. He shall restore that which he took by robbery, or the thing which he hath gotten by oppression, or the deposit which was deposited with him, or the lost thing which he found. That is the law. Everything that you see in the Talmud are discussions around this point. It is to see if this law applies in every circumstance and how it can be extended, how its exegesis would be made. And these are lawyers discussing fine points of the law, technical points of the law. Everything you see in the Talmud is not necessarily an actual law. It's a discussion, a debate. Very often it's contradiction and then statement and then contradiction, statement, and so on. So, and again let's have a look at Deuteronomy. Thou shalt bring it home to thy house, and it shall be with thee until thy brother require it, and thou shalt restore it to him. So, yeah, this is in the Bible. I believe Christians actually believe the Bible, and if that is the case, then, well, why do they have a problem with Jews discussing the Bible? And so this is not some random thing that some Jewish author made up. It is a discussion around these points. So shalt thou do with his ass, and so shalt thou do with his garment. And so shalt thou do with every lost thing of thy brother's which he hath lost, and thou hast found. So, moving on. Psalm 15:5 says he has never lent his money with interest. David, the author of Psalms, only prohibits what the Torah prohibits, and the Torah only prohibits lending with interest when it comes to Jews. It is permitted in the case of non-Jews, as it says, you may lend to an outsider with interest. That is Deuteronomy 23:21. Let's look. This is Deuteronomy 23:21. Thou shalt not lend upon interest to thy brother interest of money. Unto a foreigner thou mayest lend upon interest. Fascinating. So usury is allowed in the Bible. So these Christians who claim that the Jews are doing usury and they are evil, well, hey, it's in the Bible, so I guess you need to burn the Bible, scrap it, because the Bible is evil too now because it discusses this and it says this is the law. My comment here then is just how Christian are these Christians, now knowledgeable of the Bible are these Christians if they are slamming the law of God from the Bible. You may lend to an outsider with interest in Deuteronomy 23:21, but this is not the case with robbery, theft, and causing a loss and oppressing someone. It is prohibited to oppress, rob, or steal even from a non-Jew. That's what thou shalt not steal means. Interest, which is given with his knowledge and consent, is permitted. A Jew is obligated to show kindness to his fellow Jew, and lending without interest is a form of kindness and a favor. Sometimes this is an even greater favor than a gift, because people often hesitate to accept a gift more than they would a loan. This is not the case between Jews and non-Jews. We are not obligated to extend kindness or to lend them money for free, because generally speaking, they hate Jews. And I think that is correct. I think we've seen this over and over. But if a non-Jew treats a Jew with kindness and favor, the Jew is obligated to return the kindness and do him favors in return. That's Rabbi Jack Abramovitz. I think it's only fair if I only quote Christian sources from the Westboro Baptist Church so that we get an accurate view of Christianity, right? Well, for some reason, those people who hate Jews and who lie about the Talmud and about Jews and Judaism don't seem to find the positive things that also come out of Judaism and come out the mouths of Jews, things which are the same, which are good. Just note here also in Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 1, thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or his sheep driven away. Thou shalt surely bring them back to thy brother. Again, there is a commandment here to take things which may be lost and bring them back. If a Jew finds an object lost by a goy, it does not have to be returned. Interesting that they don't go further than that, because if you actually read through the Talmud, you're going to see probably 20 pages of discussion. Now, why would they pick one sentence out of 20 pages and imply that this is the actual ruling, because it's not the ruling. The Baraita continues. Now let's see, what is a Baraita? Baraita is any of the ancient oral traditions of Jewish religious law that were not included in the Mishnah, the first authoritative codification of such laws. So the Talmud is made up of the Mishnah and the Gemara. The Mishnah is the oral law, which is eventually codified and written down. The Gemara is the commentary upon that. So the Mishnah is effectively the commentary upon the laws of Moses, and the Gemara is the commentary upon the commentary. The Baraitot that are found dispersed singly throughout the Palestinian and Babylonian Talmuds are recognizable by blah blah blah. The Baraita continues, and likewise Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar would say, in the case of one who rescues a lost item from a lion or from a bear or from a cheetah or from the tide of the sea or from the flooding of a river, and in the case of one who finds a lost item in the main thoroughfare of a large plaza or in any place where the multitudes are found, these items belong to him due to the fact that the owner despairs of their recovery. That is simply common sense. If you've lost your money in the middle of Times Square in New York, do you expect that person who finds it to hang around and wait for you and inquire, excuse me, is this your $100 bill? A dilemma was raised before the sages when Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says that if one finds a lost item in any place where multitudes are found, the item belongs to him. Did he refer only to a place where there is a majority of Gentiles, but in a place where there is a majority of Jews, the owner does not despair of recovering the item because he relies on the Jews to return his item? Or perhaps even in a place where there is a majority of Jews, he also says that the item belongs to the one who found it. Questions, answers, questions. The Talmud is the deliberation that ultimately led to the formation of the law. It is not always definitive. It is just the debate that eventually founded the law, and the law ultimately relates to what is found in the Bible. If you say that even in a place where there's a majority of Jews, you also said that the item belongs to one who found it. Do the rabbis disagree with him, or do they not disagree? So again, it is established here, and we start to see it being established, that even in a place where there's a majority of Jews, if a Jew finds something that ostensibly should belong to a Jew, he can keep it. So this here does not imply dishonesty, it just implies practicality, and it applies, as you'll see, to both Jews and to non-Jews. And if you say that the rabbis disagree with him in a place where there is a majority of Jews, they certainly disagree. And it goes on like this for 3 paragraphs, and then come and hear a proof from a Baraita. In the case of one who finds coins in the synagogue and study halls or in any place where the multitudes are found, these coins belong to him due to the fact that the owner despairs of their recovery. And again, how do you identify who a coin belongs to, who a banknote belongs to? It's simple. Conclude from the Baraita that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar holds that a lost item belongs to the finder even in a place where there is a majority of Jews, as synagogues and study halls are places frequented exclusively by Jews. So I have a question. Why do they pick this sentence and not this sentence? Are people trying to lie? Are they trying to smear? Are they trying to be dishonest? Are they going to mind if I solely quote from the Westboro Baptist Church and say that this is representative of all Christians and all Christianity? We are dealing with a case where their coins are scattered and there is no distinguishing mark on them. Even in a place where multitudes are not found, the coins belong to the finder. Again, a matter of practicality. And it goes on and on. So you can see there'll be a statement is made, and then the Gemara rejects this proof, and it presents another argument, and it presents another argument, and it presents another argument. It constantly presents counter arguments, and it expands the scenarios, and it says, well, what about this? What about this? What about this case? What about this scenario? What if we change this factor? It's constantly on and on. Rather, actually, the Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, and he stated his opinion even in a place where there is a majority of Jews. Even in a place where there is a majority of Jews, there is no hope of finding who the owner was of an object. The point is that you keep it if there is no way to identify who the owner is. As for the rest, we have already seen, lost goods should be returned. Let's go down to finish this off. It belongs to the finder because the owner despaired of recovering a barrel misplaced in a public area, even with regard to a place where there is a majority of Jews. With regard to one who left a stolen item to his children, the heirs are obligated to pay the owner. It refers even to a cow that he plows with, or a donkey that he drives by directing it from behind, which the heirs are obligated to return. That is Bava Kama 113a, passage number 10. From the fact that the heirs must return a cow and a donkey, one can infer that they must also return a bed and a table. I don't know why Owen Benjamin didn't bother to read a little further. He read a fragment of one sentence. If he'd bothered to read a little bit more, he might have learned a little bit more. And so would all the lying liars like Rick Wiles and Arab Green and others who have plenty to say but somehow don't quote the sources in full. Anyway, that's it from me. If you like this, please like, share, subscribe, etc. Please take the time to actually read what is in the Talmud. And also note that the Talmud is a commentary on the Bible. This is a discussion around applying what we find in the Bible in terms of the law. Enough of the lies and enough of the lies. Thank you.